All right, welcome to the XFO Intelligence Podcast. This is where we explore the systems and strategies that are shaping our future. So, think about this. For over a century, our entire energy system has been engineered to work just like a machine. It's centralized, it's rigid, and it was designed for this one-way flow of power from just a few monolithic power plants all the way out to millions of users. And that machine, it gave us the modern world. But that machine is now failing. And it's not because it's broken, not really. It's because it is just fundamentally mismatched with the future it needs to power. We just put out a report from our team. It's called The Garden of Energy. And it looks at this whole problem through a really unique lens, something called Deep Augmented Thinking. And what this method does is it moves beyond those simple linear solutions to see the energy transition for what it really, really is: a complex, living ecosystem. And the core insight here is it's profound. The old energy machine, it was built on a principle of scarcity and control, right? Managing limited fossil fuels with top-down command. But the new energy ecosystem, it has to thrive on a completely different principle: abundance and adaptation. The fuel sources, sunlight, wind, geothermal heat, they're literally everywhere. But they are also variable and decentralized. So the mismatch is it's so clear. We are trying to run a dynamic, distributed ecosystem on an infrastructure that was designed for a static, centralized machine. Deep augmented thinking shows us that the solution isn't to just build a bigger, better machine. It's to learn how to cultivate a garden. And this needs, it needs three fundamental shifts in how we think about this. Okay, so the first one is the spatial shift. We're moving from a hub and spoke grid to what the report calls a mesh of meshes. Our centralized grid is basically a relic. The optimal future is this fractal-like structure of interconnected networks. Imagine households becoming active nodes with their own solar roofs and batteries. Imagine communities forming their own resilient microgrids that can operate independently if there's an outage. This mesh of meshes is it's inherently more resilient. A failure in one area gets contained, and power is rerouted dynamically. Kind of like how the internet survives localized outages. It's brilliant. Then there's the second one, the temporal shift. This is about moving from a just-in-time power to a store and manage system. Fossil fuels are like a giant battery we can just tap on demand. But renewables, they provide energy as it arrives from the sun and the wind. So bridging this gap, that is the great technical challenge of our time. But there's no single magic bullet for storage. There just isn't. Instead, what we need is a temporal cascade, a layered system. Think of it like a really well-stocked pantry. For the immediate needs, from seconds to hours, we use batteries for grid stability. For longer needs, maybe hours to days, like a multi-day windless period, we'd use things like flow batteries. And then for the long haul, from weeks to seasons, we'd use green hydrogen, which is created with all that surplus summer sun to power our cities through the winter. And finally, the third shift is the economic shift. Moving from simple commodity markets to these complex value networks. The old model it paid for the energy itself. That's it. The new model, it has to pay for services, reliability, stability, flexibility. And this means dynamic pricing that actually encourages you to charge your car when the wind is blowing. It means valuing the resilience that your home battery provides back to the grid during a heat wave. We'd stop buying just electricity and we'd start procuring, say, green power or grid stability. And then we just let the best technologies compete. The report lays out a really clear phased strategy. So phase 1, that's until 2030, is all about sowing the seeds. Modernizing local grids, letting 1,000 pilot projects bloom. Phase 2, up to 2040, is nurturing growth. That's where we scale up the winners and build the major connections between everything. And then by 2050, we should reach the mature ecosystem, a self-optimizing system where that line between energy producer and consumer it's blurred entirely. And maybe the most counterintuitive insight of all is that the most powerful role for our leaders, it isn't to design some grand plan. It's to be master gardeners. The most effective strategy is actually one of minimum viable intervention. You remove the barriers. You set clear and fair market rules, and you amplify success. You don't design the garden, you create the conditions for it to grow and thrive all on its own. So the future of energy, it's not a single destination we're all marching toward. It's a living, breathing system that we cultivate. One that grows more robust and more plentiful with each passing season. And that really brings us to the question we'd like you to think about. Our entire civilization, it was built on the mechanical predictability of that old energy machine. So can we, and maybe more importantly, should we, place our trust for the next few centuries in an energy garden? A system that is alive, adaptive, and, well, by its very nature, it's less centrally controlled. Which model do you believe will truly last?